So here's the deal. There's an epic meetup game happening today in Vegas. The WPT meetup game. Phil Ivey, Patrick Antonius, Andrew Neely, Brad Owen, and Doyle Brunson. So many more, and I can't miss it. So I'm literally getting on a flight right now. I'm exhausted. Barely slept, I think 2 hours. Had a little too much to drink, but we're headed there, and we're gonna play some poker with some legends. All right, I just rolled up. I'm a few minutes late, but I'm excited to get in there and play some poker, hopefully with some really cool legends. And we're gonna jump in here at the Wynn, probably play the 1-3, maybe the 2-5, but I'll see what seats they have available and go from there. All right, let's do this. So my flight landed at 9:50 a.m. and the meetup game starts at 10. So of course I'm gonna be a few minutes late. So I got in the cab, walked over, headed to the Wynn right in time to see Andrew Neely in a three-way all-in where he had pocket queens versus pocket kings versus ace 10 suited. The flop didn't look good, the turn didn't either, but on the river, a queen comes and Andrew felts both opponents and triples up. And of course I had to take some credit for walking up and being the good luck charm. Andrew told me they reserved a seat for me, but I couldn't help but walk around and notice all the amazing poker ambassadors in the room. I saw Doyle Brunson, Phil Ivey, Patrick Antonius, and of course Brad Owen. I was so excited to take my seat. It's time to play some 1-3, 500 max buy-in, no limit hold'em at this epic Wynn meetup game. Let's get into some poker hands. By the way, if you missed it, I was in Vegas just a couple weeks ago to surprise Jamin Burton, aka the Drawing Dead vlog on YouTube for his 50th surprise birthday party, and it was an incredible time. I documented the whole week, and if you guys didn't know, I have a second YouTube channel, Ashley Frank Vlogs. Go check it out, subscribe if you want. It's pretty much me documenting all my adventures away from the poker tables, so don't forget to go watch, like, and subscribe. In one of the very first hands I'm dealt, my opponent limps in the hijack, and then I'm next to act in the cutoff with ace of spades, queen of hearts, and I raise to $15. The small blind flats and the original limper calls, so we're going three ways to a flop of 7 deuce 4 with 1 spade. The small blind doesn't want to check, he actually leads out for $25. The original limper to my right folds, and now it's on me. I have 2 overcards and a pretty strong hand, and I have position. If my opponent starts to shut down on the turn and river, I can also try to turn my hand into a bluff, blocking the best 7x combinations my opponent can have. For example, like ace 7, he can have some straight draws and possibly some 7x holdings and pairs like pocket 8s, 6s, 5s, so we're gonna peel. The turn is a great card for our range. It's the king of spades, and now my opponent checks. This is one of the best cards I can imagine to come on the turn where we can start to apply pressure, so I bet $55. My opponent makes the call, so now we're headed to a river card, which is the jack of spades. My opponent checks yet again. This is a great card as my opponent's gonna have a tough time calling with any of the hands that connected with a flop. We also have the ace of spades, so we block the nut flush. So when my opponent checks, I put out a bet of $155. My opponent goes deep into the tank, and at this point, I'm thinking this bet is gonna work a ton of the time. He then says, I think you have pocket kings. So now I'm thinking, well, what in the world do you have if you think I have pocket kings? He then slides in the call. I say, I have ace high, you're good, and he flips over pocket aces? So my opponent took a very interesting line pre-flop, and well, he got me. Not a great start to the session, but we're gonna keep going. In this hand, I had just reloaded, so I have about $500 in front of me. I look down at pocket jacks and raise to 15. The player to my left, who was super splashy, going all in blind, just there to gamble and have a great time, he makes the call. The big blind then 3-bets to $75. I don't necessarily want to jam here. I think flatting is the best option. Even though I don't really like any of my options, I don't think I can fold, so I guess I'm just stuck dead in the middle of a call. Then the splashy player decides to go all in for a little over $155. Then the original raiser also shoves with all this extra money in the middle from a random hand that I know our splashy opponent will have, plus hoping I'm up against ace king suited, something like that. I put in my chips hoping that we're in decent shape. Unfortunately for us, the big blind woke up with pocket aces. I guess this isn't Texas where I shouldn't be getting all my money in with jacks cause they just have it. The splashy player had 10-7 suited. A little bit unfortunate, but now we're gonna be in for about $1,000 in this game. In this hand, there's several limps, and then we look down at ace-10 offsuit on the button. This isn't the best hand in the world, but we do have position, and we can attack this dead money from all the limpers, so I raised to $20. We pick up a call from the small blind in early position, so we're going 3 ways to a flop of 8-10 queen rainbow. They check it to me, and this is a board that has so many draws, and it's pretty dynamic, except there is no flush draw. King jack's never folding, a queen's never folding, jack 9 has the nuts, 10-9, etc. There's so many hands that are going to continue on this board, and we are smack dab in the middle of our range, so it's okay to check and evaluate turn cards, as there can be very many bad ones. However, the turn isn't the worst card, it's the queen of diamonds, so now the board is paired. We have 2 pair with the best kicker. Now the small blind leads for $30. The other player slides in the call, and now it's on me. I don't see any merit in raising here. We keep all worse hands in, and if we raise, we really only get called when we're beat, so I make the call. The river is a very inconsequential card, it's the 4 of spades, and now my opponent checks. I think it's safe to go for some value here. If we get raised, we can just fold, but we can get called by worse 10x combinations, and especially because at this point I have a very loose, crazy, aggressive image, so I bet $55. He thinks for a little bit, slides in the call, the other player folds, I turn over my hand, and we finally win a pot. In this hand, we get the big blind special. The button limps, the small blind limps, and I look down at 8-7 offsuit, so of course I'm checking, and we're going to see a flop 3 ways. The flop is bingo, 4-5-6 rainbow, but with 1 spade. The small blind checks. I'm definitely going to start trying to put money in this pot, as we have the absolute nuts. I bet $5. The button then min clicks it to $10. The small blind folds, and now I'm just trying to mess around. Again, these players probably think I'm absolutely insane at this point, so I put in a raise to 25. He calls, and we head to a turn card, which is a 9 of spades. Now I bet $50. He makes the call yet again, and we head to a river card, which is the jack of spades, so it does bring in the backdoor flush. I check now, trying to induce my opponent to bet with a worse hand, as well as put in some bluffs. I also can just call the river instead of betting when the flush comes in, that way we don't get blown off our hand. He bets $35, it's a pretty small bet, but I'm just going to make the call now that the flush comes in, and we win versus 10-5 offsuit. So as you can see, guys, we have our opponents right where we want them. They are now calling us down with hands like 10-5 offsuit on a board that is very scary for their hand, so hopefully our crazy image will pay off. In this hand, I look down at King 8 of spades in the hijack, and I raise to $15. Only the button calls, so we go heads up to a flop of King 5-3 with 2 hearts. My opponent checks, I bet $10, and he makes the call. The turn is a 7 of spades. My opponent checks yet again. I still want to go for value. I don't want to blow him off any of his weaker hands, so I bet $20. My opponent makes a call yet again, so now we head to a river card, which is another king. So now, as played, we should almost certainly have the best hand. However, my opponent decides to lead into us for $85. If my opponent bet a little bit smaller, I would have probably considered putting in a raise. However, because he bets a bit bigger, I just make the call, hoping we're going to be good here, but unfortunately, not today. Today, our opponent has 6-4 offsuit for a turned straight, and he's very lucky. He got max value on the river from us as we river trips, and this session is not going our way. In this hand, there's a raise in the hijack to $12, and I look down at 5-8 of hearts on the button. Looks like aces. I make the call. The big blind also calls, so we're going 3 ways to a flop of jack 3-4 with 2 hearts. The original raiser bets $22. I have 8 high, the button, and a flush draw. I think it's good enough to put in a raise and take control of this pot, so I make it $60. The original raiser is going to have a lot of overcards and hands that miss, so we can start putting pressure on all hands like pocket 10s or worse. The big blind folds, and then the original raiser thinks for just a bit and then tosses his cards in, and if we're going to win some pots, I guess we're going to have to do it the hard way. In this hand, under the gun raises to $12, and I'm in middle position and look down at 8-9 of clubs and I flat. The button then raises to $35. The under the gun player calls, and I have a nice suited connecting hand, so I'm gonna make the call, and we head 3 ways to a flop of ace 10 jack rainbow. The flop checks all the way around. The turn is another jack. It checks around yet again, and now I'm thinking the only way I'm going to win this hand is if a 7 comes on the river, and that's exactly what happens. A 7 comes, giving us a straight, although the bad end of a straight. Checks around to me, and I bet $40. The button thinks for quite a while and then makes a call, and now the under the gun player is in the tank. He also seems like he wants to call, although he's in a very tough spot with a lot of his hands, considering that the button called. He does indeed decide to fold. I show my straight, and we finally win another pot. I didn't capture the beginning of this hand because some very kind and generous vlog watcher bought me a massage, so I was in the middle of getting situated. Thank you so much for the massage. In this hand, I raise pocket 7s in early position to $12. My left calls, and then the button decides to raise to $35. I'm not gonna fold, trying to set mine, so we make the call, and we go 3 ways to a flop of Jack, 7, 4, rainbow, so we flop middle set. The original 3-better bets $20. I'm gonna flat on this pretty static board, hoping to keep the 3rd player in, and indeed he does come along. The turn is the 5, and now he checks. Having pocket 7s is really nice here because we unblock all value hands like all Jack X combinations and overpairs, so I'm hoping that my opponents will have something to call me with. I can't let this one check through, we gotta start putting money in, so I bet $55, and unfortunately they both fold. In this hand, I play against 2 vlog watchers who are very fun to play with. I had a great time battling it out on the felt with them. There's a $6 button straddle in this hand, and I look down at pocket 10s and I raise to $20. The button calls, and the big blind, who wasn't gonna fold when I'm in the pot, he makes the call, so I know he's very wide in this spot. The flop is 9, 5, 4, rainbow. The big blind leads for $30. I want to keep all of his hands in. I know he's trying to play a pot against me, so there is a little bit of meta involved. I call the 30, and then the button raises to $165. The big blind then thinks for a little bit and then makes the fold, and now it's on me. I'm pretty confident I have the best hand at this point. My opponent can have some draws like 6, 7, maybe he has a hand like 10, 9, or a really good 9x combination. At this point, I think our hand needs a lot of protection. He can have some overcards, and we want to deny equity to those hands. He only has about 400 or so more in his stack, so if I jam, it's not that much more for him to call off, so I do indeed shove, and my opponent goes deep into the tank. I was also hoping, since I'm making a vlog, that he would toss in a looser call than normal. Unfortunately for us, he does end up folding and claims that he had ace 9, so now after winning a few pots, our stack is finally climbing in the right direction. What could go wrong? In this hand, the player to my left raises to $15. I then look down at pocket queens and 3-bet to $50. He has about $400 in his stack, and he just rips all in. Again, with my image at this table, he probably doesn't expect me to have a premium hand, so I snap call. He knows at this point he's probably not in good shape, so he shows his ace queen. I'm feeling amazing now, as we only have to dodge 3 outs in the deck, and considering this hasn't been my day so far, of course, an ace comes on the flop and we lose another $400. After this hand, I got my last 100 or so in with ace king versus 6-4 offsuit, as 6 came on the flop, and that's gonna send us home. Alright, well, that's the first time in a long time I can say I was in for 1,000, out for 0, and it sucks. Nothing went my way today, and couldn't win a pot, it felt like, and I got it in with queens versus ace queen and lose. Just one of those days, really sucks. So after that brutal session, it was time to kick back, relax, and have some drinks with a few of my vlogger friends that you guys might know. We went to a nice bar at the Encore, hung out, had some great conversation, and then it was time to get some sleep. And tonight, now I'm headed to go get some drinks with Mr. Andrew Nemi, and I don't know who else is there, so it's gonna be fun to see who shows up, has some drinks, have a good time, and we are here at the Encore, and I'll see you guys for some cocktails. But anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed the vlog. If you did, would you do me a huge favor and go all in and like, comment, and subscribe? It would mean the world to me. We're just getting started. Today sucked, but you know what? It's only up from here. I'll see you guys next time.